So Brandon Moreno stops Kara-France in the third round with a vicious, vicious body kick. Let's start. There's a lot of things to unpack from this one. DC had noted, Rashad, in the broadcast, his stance was a little bit narrower. And, of course, he had left his longtime gym in Mexico, Interim Gym. He's now over with James Krause out of Glory, I think it's Glory MMA and Kickboxing. I forget the exact name of the gym. But James Krause, you know this, Rashad, one of the smartest guys, great coach, very talented fighter. How different did Moreno look to you? How and again, not like he was wildly different, but you don't need to be wildly different to have big changes. Small changes can result in big differences. What did he look like to you?
He looked better. It looked like he was more confident. It looked as if like he was in excellent shape, and it was almost as if like he knew a secret the whole fight. Even when he was getting tatted up and on the other side of a butt whooping, he still made sure that he stayed mentally engaged. And I say that because whenever you seen him going to the corner, even after he had a round where he was just getting blasted on by Kara-France, he still had that look in his eyes as if like he was going to end the fight next chance he got. And that right there showed me that in training camp, they worked a lot on just mental toughness, and more importantly, just that hey, you're going to get this, you're going to get this, you're going to get this, building that belief in himself. And that's one thing that I can say about Krause is the fact that sometimes, listen, coaches can go in there and say, make you better with the X's and O's, make you do better differently and technically speaking. But there's also times where the coach is just mentally there, mentally making you find that other guy. And that's what I seen in Moreno. James Krause held him accountable and made him find that other guy. And I seen James Krause do that in other fights, have guys, pull out a victory in the jaws of defeat when it was all on the line, just because he's able to talk to him, just because these fighters, they fight for him. And that's different. That's totally different. When you have a coach that you fight for, it just changes the way you compete altogether. And I seen that in Moreno.
Now, if I had to ask you, what's the best explanation for how he was able to win, right? A little bit of X's and O's. Tell me what you saw.
I saw Moreno, staying within the game plan. Within the game plan, he started off going to the body in the beginning, and he's seen that eventually he'd be able to get to that body. But I also seen a guy who was, not willing to sink away and go in defeat. He was getting beat up. That left leg was mince meat, and I don't even know how he even pulled that kick off. But the fact that he was able to do it just showed just how mentally tough he is. He was not going to give in. But I feel like it was a combination of just being so mentally tough and locked in, but also being able to plant that seed early and start getting that body work in the earlier rounds.
Yeah, I noticed. So when I was watching it, I was trying to see like how often he would go to the body. I noticed high kicks, obviously upstairs in the first round, and then at rough, I can't remember exactly if it's like 130, 131, 132, but at roughly 90-second mark or so of the third round, it's the exact same kick. And then Kara-France is still circling, still doing his bit, and then later on, whatever the exact time was at the stoppage, he landed that other kick, just the exact same one, and that one finally put him down. Let me ask you about the body shots, kicks or punches. So obviously everyone's going to look at that one and be like, oh, that was the kick that did it. But sometimes it can be accumulative, right? Like one shot will get through, and it's not the one that puts you down, and you might have a good poker face, and it hurts, but you can kind of muscle through it. Do you think it was just that one shot, or do you think that maybe Kara-France was feeling it a little bit, and that one was the straw that broke the camel's back?
I think it was cumulative. I think like it was maybe something he got hit with earlier, and it kind of felt like, like when you get hit with the body shot and it kind of stings, it kind of feels like, like you got stabbed or something like that, and it just feels like you got a really bad cramp and it won't go away, and it kind of stays there, and when you move a certain kind of way, you can feel it. And I feel like that's what maybe been the problem with Kara-France, because the way he threw that kick, and not saying that kick alone couldn't drop him and keep him out, but it seemed as if like when there's no fighting it like that, that means that you've already fought it one time before or a couple times before. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like when your body just like, yo, no, I can't. It just goes into shutdown mode. That means it's probably, already taken a couple that you probably almost shit yourself for taking,
Hardest liver shot you ever took? Where was it?
It was in training practice. I was sparring Tyrone Spong, getting ready for. Yeah, you already know what happened. Getting ready for Phil Davis, and he threw a shot. I landed a combination, and I started to kind of smile, and then he was like, "Bop!" Hit me with a right into the kidneys, and it actually broke my rib too, man. So it was one hell of a shot, man.
So wait, you fought Phil Davis with broken ribs?
Yeah.
Is that why that was such a wrestling heavy game plan for you?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't even want to wrestle. I kind of wanted to keep striking, but I just took what Woody gave me. But then I shot it up with some cortisone and stuff like that, so it kind of took away the sting. But once a fight started happening, it was hurting again.
Jesus. Once you said Tyrone Spong, I was like, oh, you're fucked. I mean, that's, it is what it is at that point. That's hilarious. All right, what do you want to say about Kara-France? Man, he was fighting a good fight, You go back and you watch the first one, Kara-France, the first fight between them, he wins the first one pretty cleanly, and then Moreno kind of takes over in the second and third. This one was close at times. By that third round, though, before he got dropped, Kara-France was in control. Like he sliced him up on the face. He actually got a takedown.
Yeah.
He was beating him up. I thought up until shit went bad, it was going right for Kara-France.
It was going so right for Kara-France. I thought that Kai was going to win. I thought that if he would have continued to keep doing what he was going to do, he was going to win. And it was going to get worse for Moreno because the mobility of Moreno was getting shut down. It was that leg kick was just in there, and it looked as if he took one more, he was going to have to lay down and fight from his back. That's how bad those leg shots were looking. But, it was just, very well measured approach. Kara-France didn't come out of himself too many times, overreaching and things like that, like he did the first fight. I felt like the first fight, Moreno did a really good job of managing the distance and using his reach to keep Kara-France on the outside. But Kai was very smooth this time, coming in and being out when he needed to, and not fighting in that in-between zone where he can get hit, but he can't hit Moreno. So I felt like he did a really good job of managing the distance. But that kick, it was the Hail Mary, to be honest, but it came from a very tough Moreno who just refused to give in.
It certainly did. Although I will say one thing that I kind of saw in this one was like, why was he throwing the kick in the way that he was? Kara-France was circling one direction the whole time. He was constantly going, if you're Kara-France, he was going to his right, which sets up that left body kick the whole time. And I noticed he was going out and scooping to his right the whole time. And I'm not here to say that that's wrong or anything like that, but everything has a counter for everything. And you would see Moreno flash, and he loves those blitzes, right? So, for example, in the third fight between Moreno and Figueiredo, Rashad, you would see Moreno blitz with the hands, and Figueiredo would wait on him and then clinch and go for a takedown or whatever. And sometimes they would work and sometimes they wouldn't. But he was intercepting that pressure with something he knew he could deliver back, right? We all know that Figueiredo is strong, can wrestle, has good grappling. By contrast, you saw a lot of keep away from Kara-France. He has made dramatic improvements in his defensive wrestling and his defensive grappling. But it's not an offensive weapon for him all that much. Certainly it wasn't in this fight. And so he was constantly playing keep away. It looked to me like they were just either trying to cut him off that way, or because he's going far away, you have to you go to the body and you have to kick because that's the right distance and everything. But it did seem like they were picking up on the fact that he was constantly moving in that direction, constantly at that distance. Moreno loves those blitzes. It was a bit of a Hail Mary in the sense that he was getting his ass kicked a little bit in that third round, but at the same time, I do feel like there was a method to that madness. Am I crazy?
No, you're not crazy. You're absolutely right. I feel like they made the reads. They were clocking Kara-France and seeing which way he's going to go, and that's the name of the game. If you do anything too many times on repetitive matter, you're going to get clocked and you're going to get caught. It's just a matter of time. If you got somebody at that high level, they're going to be able to see it, and especially when you got a coaching staff like James Krause and those guys who's able to pick out the nuances and try to see ways to exploit them. So, yeah, he was definitely something that, he's seen he was able to capitalize on. But, with Kara-France, he's seen an opportunity to really beat up on that leg and being able to really get Moreno circling on that leg and trying to beat him to that step was one of probably his main motivation to even circling to that side to land that right kick.
Yeah, fair enough. Now, this brings us to the fact that they brought Figueiredo into the cage afterwards. they're going to have a fourth fight because this was for the interim championship, and Figueiredo holds the real title, so to speak. So we're going to get a fourth one. Based on what you saw coming off of that third fight, remember now Figueiredo in that third fight was bringing in some of that wisdom and that coaching from Henry Cejudo. I thought he had a much better game plan.
Yeah.
I will say this. Did I see something in this fight that gives me confidence that Moreno can get over that hump with Figueiredo? Not necessarily, but here's the caveat, right? Sometimes guys go to a new coach, and it takes a few fights for them to really settle in. There can be some immediate benefits, but the full benefit doesn't necessarily happen right away. I wonder what you make of that, and also how that factors into your thinking about what a fourth Figueiredo fight's going to look like.
I 100% agree. You know, I feel like, you know, the fruits of the labor that he's putting in at Krause's gym is not really going to materialize itself, you know, until maybe the next fight or the fight after that. Like when you were asking me before, did I see anything technically different? I didn't really see anything technically different. If I was comparing anything technically speaking, I would say that he did a better job technically before when he fought him, just because he was able to utilize his reach and stuff like that. So, but the work that he did with James Krause was, for me, it was, you know, a mental one, and it was a belief factor. And now, you know, he fights for James Krause. You know, that the moment when you see Moreno get ready to go into the cage, and then you see James Krause just talking that shit to him, just getting into his mind, and just really just lathering him up. That's a coach who's connected with this fighter, you know, and the look that he had in his eyes looking at James Krause showed that connection was a very strong one. So, you know, he's fighting for that guy. So I think that going into this fight with Deiveson Figueiredo is going to be different just on that aspect alone. And now if he can just amplify and just bring all the things that he's been able to learn by being there with Krause, and really learn to just kind of, you know, pull some of the positive that he had out of the last two fights, and just really just make it a full display for the fourth one. I think we're going to have a really good fight for Moreno.
You know, it reminds me of Tyson Fury switching over between Ben Davison and then going to the Kronk gym. Yes, it was a big technical change, right? He went from a guy who was sort of jabbing on the outside to a guy who went into the storm, and it totally worked. But then you see, for example, at the press conference, right, Tyson Fury doing Tyson Fury shit where he's completely shirtless and he's looking, you know, if you didn't know he was the boxing champion, you'd think he was just an out-of-shape middle-aged dude almost.
Yeah.
But then Sugar Hill Stewart's taking off his shirt too, you know? His coach is doing the exact same. That's that connection you're talking about, right?
Yeah, yes, indeed. Yes, that's it. That's it, you know, and you know, it's a big trust that happens when you truly buy into the program. You know, when you truly buy into the program, you truly buy into what your coach is trying to get you to believe in yourself and see in yourself. Then it kind of changes things, and you've seen a dynamic. You know, I've had it with, you know, Mike Van Arsdale was one of those coaches who I just absolutely fought for. Greg Jackson and Mike Winklejohn were other coaches who I fought for, and I can just look into the corner and they just say one or two words and they can just immediately flip the switch. When I was getting my butt kicked by Forrest Griffin in the fight, you know, I go into the third round, and I sit on a stool, and the coach is like, dude, what are you doing? And just him just talking to me the way that he talked to me, just the frankness that Mike Winklejohn talked to me, I knew I was letting him down, and I didn't want that. So I went out there and fought that round for him. And that's what you do when you have that connection with your coaches.
That's a hell of a point. By the way, what is old Mike Van Arsdale up to?
He's over in Arizona. He's coaching some kids. You know, he's got like a good kids program out there he's working with.
Yeah. He was always jacked as shit, even when he was older, too.
44 years old and just arms is huge.
I couldn't believe. I was like, how are you this old with this many abs? But okay. Neither here nor there.